Look at that. Oh. Look who's up there. There's half a pretty good ball club right there.
Hey, Bud Light.
That was my biggest fear last year. Boy, they were wheeling out there as a block.
I know, but he has a note to give to Baylor. That's why.
Yes.
He's got to go to Baylor.
I can't do that.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Not got to worry about it. I like it. 60. I think we're going to. All right, he's up. Oh, get him going. Don Burns? Look at this, Dan. Look at this pair. Oh, yeah. What's the company doing? Gotta take a picture with him. Looking in the wrong end. That does 2 points. Put the camera down for a minute. Bill wants to take a picture. You better get working on those early, Harvey. You're getting old. Don't pan too fast.
Look this way, Jeffrey. All right.
You need to get into more rigorous training.
I'm early, too. See John Shit? All right.
Ball 2, strike. There's 2 balls, 0 strikes.
Well, you gotta watch the game if you're in games.
Strike 1.
You don't have a glove, huh?
Why am I on the L? It's gonna hit me first. It's 2 and 1. 2 and 1. Yeah, I know. Up there.
like. Come on, Sammy.
That is
That's not running the whole time, is it? Almost hit him in the forehead. I love it.
Okay, coach is back, so we can start the show now. I'd like to welcome everybody dedicating the field in his name. So we've got a number of people who are going to come up today and talk. And as far as the format, we're going to have some speakers, we're going to have some presentations, and then we're going to conclude it by the unveiling of the sign that'll be out forevermore. Be called Don Burns Field. So while we may have lost one day because of Mother Nature, there's a lot of days in the future that'll never rain on that field. So let's start the program off, and we'd like to bring up Jim Forniseri, the head coach, okay? And he's going to be starting the program off. And Coach, come on up. And also we want to thank Coach for his cooperation in making all this happen for Coach Burns. Jim?
I know not a great weather day for us. It was a good day in a diamond until about 6 hours to go in the ball game. And we'll take care of that next week. I really appreciate everyone coming out for this event. I know it's going to be a great weekend. Even though the weather's not cooperating today, I think everyone's going to enjoy not only the hour or so that we'll be in here this afternoon, but also your evening tonight. I'd like to thank Mike Skoronsky and Dr. Zimmerman, our administrators here at Glenbard West, for all their efforts. Also the committee that put in a tremendous amount of hours trying to make this weekend a great one and to recognize Don. One of the things that we've talked about in our program as we've tried to build it the last couple of years is not only trying to have good young men on the diamond, people that are winners in the classroom and winners in the community, and good baseball players, but we also talk a lot about tradition. And Mark Luganville and some of the other parents are former players. They've tried to give us a lot of information about the tradition here at Glenbard West on the baseball field, but having a day like this makes it real special. My boys want to recognize Don. I've got a couple of boys whose fathers actually played for Don. Would those boys just step out for me? We've got a couple of those guys. Bill Bush on the far right, Bob Luganville in the middle, and Dave Dobis here on the far side. So these guys all played, or fathers played, for Don. We've got a couple of things that the boys would like to hand on today and kind of get things going and enjoy the rest of the day. Burns and Dave Dobis is one of our senior right-handers, has a Glenbard baseball hat for Coach Burns.
Thanks, Coach. Thanks, Coach, and thanks, guys. Before we get going any deeper, one thing that I do want to do is I do want to recognize the Burns family, okay? And all the kids. Marge, you can't videotape yourself. I just want Marge to come out here so she can get on camera. Okay, so they video everything. March first in the kids. We got Lori here and Bonnie. Stand up, come on. And then we got the three guys, all of whom are great players here at Glenbard West. Tom's up there. All of the Burns family, stand up for one round of applause, okay? Come on. And all the grandkids. Bring up the athletic director of Glenbard West High School, Mike Skoronsky, and Mike has a special presentation to Coach Burns. Mike?
I'd like to welcome everybody here to
Glenbard West. I know many of you are out of towners that are back for the first time in a while. I've kind of opened up all the new areas for you to walk around the building at a later time. We have a brand new gymnastics room up here off the balcony. Those doors are unlocked. We have a fantastic exercise room just below us, what many of you knew as the track. Feel free to walk down there. And also the field house begins beyond that wall. So feel free when the festivities are over to kind of walk around the building and enjoy the sights. One of the things that I try to do here as a new athletic director, especially when Hilltop Gym went under construction, is that we tried to organize this year everything from trophies to plaques to the all-conference photos. And I know many of you have been looking through the all-conference photos. We're in the middle of trying to organize them, seeing if we can take so many down from off the hill and get them mounted somewhere here in this building. So they're still in the usual spots, 2 stairwells, but in each vestibule here, each of the 2 vestibules, there are new flip charts, which make it a lot easier for you to kind of go through. So we've been remounting. We've probably remounted about 400 pictures this school year. So you feel free to, much easier for all of you to be able to go through the flip charts. I'm trying to get them in order as I've been finding them in various corners of Glenbard West. So the early years are kind of in this vestibule. I kind of got them in order, in time order, with this first and this and the far north vestibule kind of more recent. What I'd like to do is have Coach Burns again. You want to step up here for a second? This token of thanks and appreciation is from the athletic department here at Glenbard West for all of the fantastic years, dedication, the amount of time he put in here, the fantastic number of great stories that are just floating around the building. And everybody knows who Coach Burns is. And we'd like to just show our appreciation here with the athletic department with a jersey for him that we hope he'll like and appreciate and be able to enjoy. Coach, thank you.
You take a picture of him?
Hard to do.
This is called a photo opportunity. We won't finish until everyone's done. And by the way, here's Greg Broman, class of '68, one of the great
Hey!
Thanks a lot. I really appreciate that. That's beautiful.
Coach Burns just whispered in my ear and he said he's going to be available afterwards for photographs with that for $5. And something else in the program. Mike Stronsky, let's hear it for Mike. Thank you very much, Mike. One of the other guys who played for Coach Burns and is still in the community here in Glen Ellyn is also the village president. And at this time, it's my privilege to introduce one of my neighbors and teammates, and now the village president of Glen Ellyn, Greg Matthews, for a presentation with them.
All right! All right!
I can't tell you how much fun this is for me in terms of some of the jobs I have to do as village president, but just a little story. About a year ago, there was a couple of guys sitting in a car, having met with Coach Burns, and kind of a conversation came up. We got to do something for Coach Burns. What can we do? We need to talk to some people. And you see, any number of folks have got together, formed a committee to make this event possible and to make the making of the field possible for Coach Burns. One thing that was really important to him when I was a player was the character of the team. I understand you guys are known to have a lot of fine character, and we appreciate that. And I'm really glad that you could be here for this. it's Don Burns Day, and so it is. And I also had a proclamation which I read at our last village board meeting, which is on TV. Any of you care to turn on Channel 18, you might be able to see the replay. But Don, I want to present you with a proclamation from the village, if you could come up and join me, please. It goes like this. Whereas, it's kind of legal proclamation language. Whereas Don Burns began his coaching career at Glenbard West High School in 1957 and was named head varsity baseball coach in 1960, a position he held until his retirement in 1989. And whereas, under his guidance, Glenbard West teams captured 4 West Suburban Conference titles, 12 district titles, 5 regional titles, and 1 Summer League championship. And that's not to mention the league region championships along the way. And whereas in 1982, Coach Burns was elected by 600 Illinois coaches to the prestigious Illinois High School Baseball Coaches Association Hall of Fame. And whereas a group of Coach Burns' former players are honoring him with a special tribute on Saturday, April 27th, which will include the retiring of his number 20 jersey and naming of Glenbard West baseball field at Village Green Ball Fields to Don Burns Field. Now, therefore, I, Gregory S. Matthews, President of the Village of Glen Ellyn, Illinois, do hereby proclaim Saturday, April 27, 2002, Don Burns Day, and call upon our residents to join in the celebration of the contributions of Glenbard West's beloved Coach Burns, who enriched and inspired the lives of so many young people with his dedication and energy, his insistence on excellence and high standards of sportsmanship, and his love of his players and the game of baseball. And I just want to present this to you.
Anyone mention it first?
Back to you, Johnny.
Thanks, Greg. And I don't know if it's, I may skip somebody, forget somebody, but I hope not. But one of the things that Don did too was he was very close to the other teachers that he taught with. And we have several of those guys here today. And I'll point out 3, and there may be others, and I'm sorry if I missed somebody. But over here to my right, Coach Duchan, okay? Bill Duchan. Up here, Don Lovell, coached basketball here for years. Choir, one of the greatest choirs of all time. And the choir director, now retired, one of the all-time greats, Dick Whitecap. I respected that in the name of friendship. In fact, Dick Whitecap was telling me how Birdsey would break them up in the lunchroom when they would eat and talk and tell stories. And that's what it's all about, is making friends and keeping friends forever. Greg mentioned the committee that met several times in order to make this a reality. And at this time, you see the guys with the hats. The guys with the hats are members of the committee. And I'd like to have them all stand up right now because they're the ones that put all this together for Coach Burns to make it all possible. So the guys who are on the committee, can you please stand? And if you just remain standing, for one reason, we've got time. You know, the guys were really humble. I said, you know, we didn't get Ostrowski. I'm trying to Greg Ellyn, Mark Howard, Steve Garwood, Mark Louisville. These guys did an awesome job. Great player. 59 to 66, how about that? These guys came in on their own coach. If you play from 70 to let's say 79, stand up. They love this guy so much. At this time, we're going to get into the unveiling of the sign. And Dick Malasek and the guys, you know, we've got it buried someplace, but all the guys are going to bring it out. I'd like to have the committee guys come up here. And Dick Malasek, of course, who made the sign, come on up here. And we're going to ask Village President Matthews to assist in this process. But this sign will be up at the field forevermore as soon as we get a dry day and some good concrete. Get your videos and cameras ready.
I got it.
Okay. Coach Burns, this is what it's all about. Why don't you come on up, and we'd like to have you pull off the tarp here and show everyone the sign for Don Burns Field. Dick Malasek again made this sign, but this will be up in the field. I think the sign tells it all.
Beautiful.
Ladies and gentlemen, Don Burns.
Going to be hard. Oh, that's over. My brother's here. He came because he wanted to see me cry myself. Very hard for men, particularly my age, to express sentiment. Women have an advantage. Women have an advantage. They love everybody. They hug them and kiss them. But men, particularly old guys like me, you tend to insult your buddies and needle them. This wasn't done. But it's going to be very hard for me to express how I feel. But I do. I'd like to thank Mr. Scarazzi, the athletic director, for the uniform. Although that shirt looked too big for me. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's certainly a lot nicer than some of the raggy ones we wore back in 1957. I think some of them had collars on them. So, Coach Form Jerry, who is doing a great job with the program. He's contacted me several times, and you don't have to look at these kids too long to realize that the program is in fine hands, fine hands. I was always prejudiced. I always thought the baseball players were the best kids in school, and I told everybody that. Much to the dismay of some of the other coaches. I thought they were better looking, better behaved, and were just the cream of the crop, and they were. I've got to thank Greg Matthews, president of the village, for all he's done here. Thank God I was always nice to him when he was playing. I don't think he ever made an error. Using a relay man that throws from second to first is not bad. His arm got better as he got older. And a lot of people can't run fast. He knows how I feel about him. All I've never told him. Probably never will. But we get together, he comes up snowmobiling, he's just been great. And all the guys in the committee proving once again that I was right. The baseball players were the best kids in the school.
Yeah!
It's particularly nice to have this year, because this is the 40th anniversary of our first championship. It's up there somewhere. It's 1962, which was a special year for me. I've got more memories of that year. And a lot of those players are here. Most
this team not only won the conference easily, but we had some great memories and experiences with that team that were hard to believe unless you were there and they were there. We had two pitchers, for example, who never pitched except in batting practice all year. And I promised them if we win the conference, that last doubleheader, you guys will at least start. And one of them, Jim Smith, he pitched a 1 or 2 hitter and shut him out. And I remember these guys, the regulars, carrying him off the field on their shoulders. And I saw him a couple years ago, and he said, Coach, that was the highlight of my life that day. And it was terrific. I don't think they could find Jim. It's hard to keep track of these guys, but he just loved that experience. He's 50 years old or 55 years old now, and it was a highlight. We played against men's teams. Dick Watkins is up here. We played the University of Wisconsin summer team. Dick shut him out, including a kid on that team named Reichert who got the biggest bonus in the history of the big leagues at that time. And I don't think he hit you, did he, Dick? No. So it was an outstanding team. I'd like them all to stand up, because these are my boys from 63. Except the players are bigger now. And they lift weights. We thought that was equal back then. That was a great team there. We have other players here that came from all over the country. And there's a lot more coming later tonight. And I cannot express how that makes me feel. And I talked to them on the phone, and I can't talk for 5 minutes on the phone with these guys. One of them, they call and we talk for an hour because we start talking about unique experiences. Experiences that, unfortunately, you boys will not be able to have because it isn't done anymore. But we made 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 mile road trips every spring. Played all over the country against men's teams, as professionals, college boys. So when we came back and played against mere high school kids, it looked easy. It wasn't. It was a great experience. We sold candles, ran raffles, raffled off TV, ran steak fries, and raised the money, and it was just a great time. Great time. I was hoping that we could talk out at the field, because I'd like to talk with parents. Are the parents of current players here? I hope so. Some probably they went home, they're all wet. I can remember when I was playing in high school, the first thing I looked for when I got off the bus to see if my father was there. And he, in those days, high school baseball has come so far, it's unbelievable. There were no stands or anything, and I would watch her in Black Oldsmobile. If I saw the Black Oldsmobile, there were probably 2 fans at the game. But I knew he was there, and it made a difference to me. So if you parents are supporting your boys, it's great. I'll tell you something else. When they're playing in high school and they're gone, you're going to miss them. Bad? No. Anyhow, I'd like to say a few words to the current players. They mentioned character before. And if you watched the NFL draft last week, almost every executive that stood up in the interviews and talked about who they're going to draft mentioned character. Character, character, character. We want people that we can count on, that are dependable, and are good people. It's more important that they draft good people than good football players. Well, it's nice when you have both good baseball players. So character is becoming more and more important because the society seems at times to be collapsing around us. So baseball and other sports are more and more important now than they used to be. Now, I have some quotes here I was going to use, but one of the quotes I found in my little quote book was by some well-known writer that the best thing baseball has going for it is its past. Because baseball has traditions that go back forever. Major League Baseball is in big trouble, and if they go on strike, they'll be really in big trouble. College baseball has advanced a lot, but if you check the playoffs every year, it's virtually the same teams every year because they recruit better and they have more money than the other schools. So I'm convinced that the best baseball, the best place to coach, the best place to play is in high school. The fields are getting better. You should see some of the fields we played on. They had a field out here. A cow wouldn't have been happy. Our manager ran up to the mound of Rosenbach one time, broke his leg, stepping in a hole. Your manager should not get hurt. And this big, heavy kid fell right down in a hole. Harry Lewis, some of you may remember him. He was a good manager. But when you talk about character with high school players, it reminds me of signing contracts. When I signed my contract with the White Sox, I thought it was the greatest thing in the world. I came home, my mother asked me what I was doing. Why do you want to do that? It didn't mean anything to her, but to me it did. In that contract, I was forbidden from swimming, playing tennis, which of course only rich kids play tennis in Chicago, horseback riding, weightlifting, none of all these things were bad. But when I signed that contract, I swore on that contract that I would not do those things. And I love the game so much that they told me I couldn't eat milkshakes or whatever, I would have given that up. Now you boys have all signed a contract with the high school, right? Training rules. The training rules have caused problems for coaches and players forever. Because there are some people that don't believe that a contract means that I as a human being will not do these things. And if you can't give up drinking beer or whatever kind of exotic chemicals are popular now, if you can't give those up to enjoy the experience of being a baseball player and making lifelong friends, these men are friends for 40 years, and they could have blown it all because of a six-pack or something like that. The contract can be broken easily. We all know that. You can get away with stuff. But you have to look in the mirror and you have to ask yourself, what kind of a human being am I going to be? And it teaches you self-discipline. And so you don't need a grown man standing there threatening you. You want to say, hey, I am not going to do this because I said I wouldn't do it. I don't want to lose my eligibility. I don't want to embarrass my parents. I don't want to let my teammates down, which is what you're doing if you break it. But I can tell by looking at this group, thank God. I fought hair battles in the 60s. And I still will not listen to the Beatles now. Those four Fruity Tooties came over from England. And all my players started growing a hair down in their ears. Mutton chops sticking out this far on the side of their head. Hair hanging out the back. Oh my, easy. And I used to tell them, so you can't, you went to the principal said, you can't tell a kid to cut his hair. This is the 60s, kids are now human beings that have civil rights. You cannot tell him to cut his hair. So I would tell him, I cannot tell you to cut your hair, but I have to tell you that if two players are equal ability, I'm always going to pick the kid with the shorter hair. I know that's not fair, and you can sue me now, but that's just the way I am. I've been around a long time. So the hair got shorter. Now thank God for these guys, Neanderthal guys, because hair wasn't a problem in the early 60s, but boy, in the 60s and 70s. One of my boys even had hair done out of his thing. Oh. I'm glad we don't have to go through that. Well, you know, they shave it off up to here and then that's scary, but as long as you keep your hat on. Nobody will notice. Anyhow, it's hard for me to express just exactly how this makes me feel. Baseball coaches in general are sort of an anonymous group, sort of blend in the background. I had kids for years in driver ed, word I hate to use, and they would say, who's the baseball coach? I only been the head coach for 25 years. They didn't know who the coach was. I have to tell you one story in driver ed. I was lecturing in class, and one girl said to me, Mr. Burns, how come you decided to be a driver ed teacher? Now, that's a fairly good question. No was going to be a doctor, but I was driving on a highway and I got hit by a semi and half of my brain was amputated. Most people would pick up on sarcasm. She said, how long ago did that happen? If you want to grow up to be a driver education, come see me after we get done. My wife told me, wouldn't it be hilarious if one of your old driver ed students shot you while you were getting honored that day? Happy thought. I'd like to publicly apologize to anybody whose feelings ever got hurt in driver ed. One or two, I'm sure, over the years, felt bad after being in there. They didn't feel as bad as I did. That's about all I can think of to say. I appreciate this like nothing else. You have just so many high points in your life. On Greg's case, when he got that hit that 1 year. Playing on the high school team was great. Playing on the college team was great. My coach is here, by the way. Les Miller, stand up. Les. UIC, as you call him. In fact, they tore one school down, built another one while he was still there. So he's old. I'm almost as old as he is. And he, when I was a freshman in college, I wasn't sure whether I wanted to do that, to stay in there, and he was a big influence in keeping me in school. And I still appreciate it. Although he was mean to me. I went from second to third on a bunt one time, and I thought the batter had fouled the bunt off. And actually, the catcher had missed it. And I got up and trotted back to second. I got caught in a rundown, and my beloved coach yelled, "Get off the field, you big dummy." Remember? Another thing he did to me, he came up with this new idea that we would put on a play that nobody else had ever used.
I thought it was one of the younger kids' cars because I saw little kids.
As soon as this guy turns his head and looks away, take off for the plate. Remember that? He did it once. They had a big black kid catch it, looked like he'd eaten me for breakfast. This kid was huge and mean. Well, the pitcher, Les forgot that the pitcher could turn his head a second time. And he saw me heading toward this Man Mountain catcher. And I was up by about 60 feet. And this guy ate me up. I mean, he threw me up in the air, which made everybody on the team, including Les, happier than they'd ever been in their life. I mean, you never heard such guffawing while I was dragging myself out of the dirt. So, I should probably quit reminiscing about all the things he did to me.
Why did you get enough about these players? You knew that was going to happen.
Well, we've had 7 or 8. We've had 7 or 8 players from Glenbard signed professional contracts. A lot of them went to the University of Denver on scholarships, and a lot of them, 7 or 8 signed. Greg Roman, who doubles as a custodian in the high school weekends, signed by San Diego. I don't think Richie Burke, Sammy Tage, Sam is here. Sam signed with White Sox. Angels, excuse me. Sam almost destroyed the Park District building out there in right field. You've never seen the ball hit the way Sam did. He could run, he was big. His throwing arm, well, nobody's perfect. Mike Oates, many of these guys all remember Mike Oates was a pitcher here. We'll probably see him tonight. He was about 6'5". Shoulders that wide, arms real long, and he was a right-hander with a left-handed personality. Mike was written up in New Yorker magazine about 15 years ago as one of the 2 or 3 fastest, hardest-throwing pitchers ever to pitch in the minor leagues. Just a kid named Steve Dalkowski is the fastest. And Oates, they said, hit a guy in the leg, and you could see the signature of the president of the league in his skin. And if you guys have heard that played with him, know that Oates was just, he threw so hard and so wild that it was frightening even to get near him. He was alleged he brained somebody in the Pony League. He's the guy that got helmets brought in. Because without a helmet, you were risking your life. At Lions, we went over to play Lions, now called the Grange, I think. And it was one of those great days for baseball. We played at 10 in the morning, the wind was blowing in hard, it was 33 degrees, a little snow mixed with the rain. And no, you don't want to be there. You don't want a game right now. I never got hit with the wind blowing in when it was cold. But we had Oates on the mound, this huge fireballer. The first kid from LaGrange comes up, and the pitch hits him right in the hand. The kid goes down, he's leaping around. The umpire rules foul tip. They rubbed him down for about 5 minutes. They put him back, and the next pitch hit him on the point of the elbow, shattering his left arm. Down he goes in the pile. They drag him off. So they have a runner on first and no outs. The second guy comes up reluctantly, and the coach gives him the bunt and said L-Y-O-N-S. He squared around, and the pitch hit him on the Y. Went right over the bat and hit him in the chest, and it sounded like somebody hit the wall. He went, oh, down dancing. The next guy came up, and thank God they have lines in the batter's box, because this guy was over near the bus. He was back like this, and he bunted the ball. He actually lunged in the bunt. Oates picked it up through deep right center for a triple. So I went out and said, Mike, I think we have to make a change. Oh, okay. Well, when he pitched for Cincinnati, he got a huge bonus out of high school, $50,000, something like that. And I talked to him a couple of years ago. I said, tell me about your minor league career. He didn't make the big leagues. He said, well, one night I had a 2-ambulance night. What? He said, well, the first inning I hit a guy in the chest and he stopped breathing. They had to revive him. Oh my God. And about the 6th inning, I hit a guy in the head and they took him out in an ambulance. Right from home plate directly into the ambulance. He said, every time we played another team in the league that had bonus players, had money in, they wouldn't play them when I was pitching. So if you come over tonight, you see Mike. Well, another Mike, we used to play dodgeball here. Now, dodgeball is now a cruel sport. I saw a guy on ESPN, it's a little skinny, wimpy old guy. He said he still has nightmares about being hit with the volleyball when he was playing dodgeball. So they're not going to ban dodgeball because it's a cruel, inhuman activity to be hit with a ball from land. We don't want any negative things to happen. But when we played dodgeball in here, nobody threw the ball at the kids in the middle except Mike Oates. And he picked up a volleyball, it looked like a softball. He would get back about 4 steps and fire into the pack. And it was, and then the seniors would all laugh and slapped as they dragged these poor freshmen off. It was brutal. Well, the last time we played, he was over here and all the freshmen were cowering in the corner. And as soon as he started running and raised his arm, the first 25 kids dropped to the floor, and the skinny little guy is standing in the back. And it hit him. I've never heard a sound quite like that. The kid went down, I'm sure he's probably a monk or something. But, he doesn't have any kids on this team. And if those sissies on ESPN saw Mike Oates play that ball, would have been banned years ago. I mean, it was talking about cruel treatment. It was bad. Anyhow, we have a million stories here. Oh, yeah, Russ Sumpkin's here. How can I forget Rusty? Russ, stand up and take your hat off. All right.
Hey, Rusty!
Best Russ, I have a million Rusty. Russ was the head coach at Glenbard, one of those other Glenbards, whatever, South. And Russ had it like that. He was follically challenged and was getting ball at a young age. He's overcome that, you can see. Well, the guy called me and said, Russ has got an arc howl model. I thought that was a bat. Of was fake hair. So, and he was so proud of that fake hair. Anyhow, we played in a doubleheader the next weekend, and I had a giant Halloween afro. So we hit infield everything with my normal cap, and I went, my whole team surrounded me, and I put this afro on, this big, and they pinned my cap on the top of it. I walked up to home plate for the meeting with the umpires. Russ didn't even smile. His wife laughed so hard she wet her pants in the stands. And his team, if your coach walked in, none of your guys would have a hair problem. But if your coach walks in with a toupee, don't laugh. Because you'll be on the bench. And you should have seen me, when I was making fun, the kids on the team were going, oh my God. He's the coach. It was beautiful. Russ used to go with us on the trips. These guys were on the trips. President Matthews is going to get on me here. I have not started to cry, right? And I tell you, I appreciate this sign. I have to tell you, in finishing, one little joke, because I like the punchline. An English woman came over to visit her nephew. She'd never seen a baseball game. So they went out to the game. He said, I'll explain the game to you. So the first guy hit the ball left field. He's racing toward first. And the English woman said, why is he running toward that base over there? And he said, because you have to get to the base before the ball gets there. So she stood up and said, run swiftly, young man, run swiftly. He sat back down. And the next guy walked. He's walking toward first base, and the English woman said, why is he walking? And her nephew said, because he has 4 balls. And the English woman stood up and said, walk proudly, young man. Walk proudly. And now I like that last line, and I'm going to change it a little because I'm going to, it should be walk proudly, old man. Because I am going to walk proudly. And thanks to everybody here.
Come on, give them a big stand. Let's go. As they said in the about Roy Hobson, well, here's the best there ever was. Since later on today, late at Arrowhead Golf Course, I think. So if you've made plans, break them. If you plan to come, it's over at Arrowhead at 5, and we're going to hang here until the gang here kicks us out. But on behalf of the committee and everybody else here, everybody, thanks for coming. We'll see you a little bit later. And thank you, Glenbard West, for making this happen. Thank you.
I
4 years old, I believe. He's living down in Arizona. And just a whale of a gentleman, just a total gentleman, total respect for the man. And this is to Don from James Cook. Congratulations on a much-deserved honor to have the baseball diamond named for you. You were an excellent coach and certainly a very hard worker. Your team's brought many honors to Glenbard West High School. I wish continued success for you and all your future endeavors. James Cook. And now I'd like to turn it over to Don Burns.
This is why I get to call it wrestling.
And I'm not wearing underwear.
Thank you, Russ. We too had 3 parts to our season at Glenbard West. Conference season, tournament, and patsies. We got St. Francis, Lucy Flower, and Glenbard South as often as we could. The one time in the Summer League, Russ was beating us about 8-0, and he yelled to the umpire one of his usual cute remarks, "Punch some holes in that mask." And they threw him out of the park. And he stepped over the line and started yelling at him again. Now they threw him into the parking lot. And the next they threw him out, and we won the game. They were ahead 9-1. We won. Goodbye, Russ. That was great.
No, I'm coming back up. I've got to tell you, my all-time favorite, and all the baseball players in this room, I had a theory when I was coaching that if you didn't talk to the umpire, if you didn't argue with the umpire, he couldn't do anything about it. This had to be 1969. Billy Molinari is catching. And the umpire's having a terrible time behind the plate. He could not call a ball or a strike. So I, in my infinite wisdom, trying my theory, said, I'm going to go talk to Billy Molinari. So I walked to the home plate, stood on home plate. Molinari's looking me eye to eye, and the umpire's right behind me. Vandermeer. Al Vandermeer. So I looked Molinari in the eye and I said, Billy, the umpire's having a terrible day. He can't call balls and strikes. He's terrible, but don't let it bother you. If it bothers you, it's going to affect the game. This guy's terrible. He stinks. Don't let it get you down. And he looked at me, Vandermeer, the umpire, rolled up his sleeve, looked at his watch, and he said, Sumka, you got 30 seconds. And for the rest of the game, I sat on the railroad track behind Memorial Park, and I flashed signs to the bench as far as what we were going to do. So don't ever test that theory. I told him, I said, Al, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to my catcher. He said, Russ, you got 15 seconds.
Obviously, there's no word for subtle in Bohemian. I would never resort to that kind of... Last time I got thrown out, I remember I suggested to the umpire that a large insect had flown into his duodenum. And he made me go sit somewhere else. Well, there were a lot of bugs out. It was a possibility. And it was Russ leaped to his feet when I suggested that Glenbard South was a patsy. Actually, they had some good kids, and when they didn't forfeit because the coach made a fool out of himself, they beat us regularly. It's going to be hard for me to keep from sobbing all over myself because I never thought anything like this would ever happen. The bagpipers, I've talked to Dougie, we're hot tub buddies up north, and I made him promise me that when there's nothing wrong. It's an alternate lifestyle.
That's not what you called it in the 60s.
Sleep with a guy once or twice, he thinks he can say anything he wants. But I made Dougie promise, because Dougie is another big Bohemian, but he's Irish at heart, and we love the Irish music. He's been to Ireland, and I made him promise when I finally fall down, Dougie, you are responsible for getting a bagpiper at Leonard's or wherever it'll be, the gas station, wherever it'll be. So when those pipers started playing, I started crying because I actually thought I had died and didn't even know it. That's why they said, have you told these people something I don't know? I mean, I feel fine. I will for a long time. The stories, a lot of people think I make those stories up, but the guys have been around know, and somebody said to me tonight, if those stories were not true, they'd be different every time you told them. Because if you lie, you have to have a good memory. Those stories are true. And I made a bet with somebody, I said, all the players in the room, you point to any one of them, and I can tell you the story about that guy you think is, there's a man there that hit an 800-foot triple. He hit it so far at Glenbard Field before the fence that it went behind the light towers and into knee-high weeds. Two outfielders were down searching for it. The whole team, and this guys were there laughing. So our whole team is up there cheering him on. And he whipped around first. He looked great. Went around second. He slowed down a little bit. When he got halfway to third, parts actually started flying off. And his shirt came out, my shirt, by the way, because nobody else had a shirt big enough to fit him. And when he got near third base, he went down like he'd been shot in the back with a bazooka. He crawled into third base and got a standing ovation from the place. So he has the longest triple ever hit. I mean, anybody can hit a home run. He became a legend with that. But we've had some, I've had a top 10 list of, I had a whole list of the all-star team for guys under 5'4", between 5'4" and 5'6". I had the all-slow team. Steve was captain. But I don't want to do that because I'm not going to be able to roast anybody because this is unbelievable. I really appreciate it. I never thought this would happen, and I get emotional when I just think about it. Baseball has meant more to me than anything else I can think about in the family. In order to coach baseball, I had to teach driver ed for 32 years. Which is, I mean, you have no idea what, I have driver ed stories that would terrorize people. Just scary. You walk out to the car, there's 4 kids look like they're trapped in front of a moving truck. You say good morning, one of them starts to cry. They're making notes so they can go to study hall and tell them how mean the driver ed teacher was. And all I went through was whiplash, spinal injuries, back aches. I took 3 girls out of Roosevelt Road one time and wore a football helmet. And people were going by us, they thought it was funny. So did I. The girls in the car didn't laugh at all. Thank God they don't know where I am anymore. But the baseball stories and the trips we made, now nobody gets to make those trips. The last ones were 4,000 miles. We started off back in 1957 and 8, 9 with some of these guys who were here. When I was a kid, my father arranged for our summer league team to go to Portage, Wisconsin to play a weekend series, and I thought that was the next thing to being in the big leagues. We slept in a firehouse, and it was great. So when I got the job at Glenbard, you try and figure out things you can do to improve the program, and one of them was to make trips. We went to Madison, Wisconsin, Sun Prairie, and all these guys all played. Then we went to Benton Harbor. And then Bob Ellie and I decided, well, let's try something different. Jack Rose said, bring the kids to Denver. Well, that's a long way. So we went to Denver for a week. We slept in the basement of banks, on stone floors. We slept on wrestling mats on the side of the road. Just because we didn't, there were no funds, we had no sponsor. And then after doing that for a few years, I remember sitting there thinking, we're going to plan the ultimate baseball trip. We went from Glen Ellyn to Ohio, to the Naval Academy, to Florida, to Tallahassee, to New Orleans, back, and I mean, it was great. We talked about characters. Well, you can't do that. I ended up with 35 kids. You can't do that if you've got kids that are going to be running around and raping and pillaging. Although one of the days is almost did. I can remember looking up, and we stayed with the Legion team, and they had some of the local redneck guys had dinner for them. They had a guy that's run the team that had a knife scar from one ear all the way over his Adam's apple. And he looked mean. I mean, he was, And the guy said, "Where's Dace?" He said, "Well, he's with this guy's daughter over by oh, please, go get him because we're all going to get killed here before we got him." He was just talking to her. But those trips could only be done because of the American Legion team. The high school would never have allowed that. You know, if you have too much fun, it's illegal. And you don't want to give a young man any responsibility because he might become mature just like that. But the guys look forward to those trips. We ran steak fries and sold candles. We sold black candles one year. They thought we were all atheists or something. But we sold them. If the kid couldn't raise the money to go on the trip, you know, his father's out of work or whatever, Bob Ellyn and Dick Selectman, a couple others said, "You just tell me their name and we'll see that they get the money." So we did that, and which brings me to Richie Ford, the famous Richie Ford story. Richie couldn't afford to go, so we gave him the money, and the first day out, we're at Virginia Beach or somewhere, and he comes walking down the beach in about an $80 sunsuit, and I'd give him some money. He had big pink flowers all over his chest. And he was in the sun all day. I said, "Geez, Richie." So he got so sunburned that that night I let John Chitt use my van. And we went out to eat. I'm in this fancy restaurant. The phone rings. Anybody here named Burns? I said, "Oh, God." John Chitt had taken my van, and Richie Ford was so sunburned he was laying on the floor. And when 10 guys got out of the van, they walked on his chest. He was horribly sunburned, so he jumped out of the van and ran off into the night. Oh my God. So we got back to we're staying at William and Mary. And the police called and said, "You know a guy named Richie Ford?" I said, "Yeah, he's on the team." "Where is he?" We said, "We just caught him at the airport trying to sneak onto an airliner to go home. Everybody's being mean to him." So he said he went berserk. So I said, "Well, what are we going to do?" He said, "Bring him back to the gas station in the corner by the school." And I had 4 or 5 guys in the bushes. The cops dropped them off. We all ran out and tackled them. We took him up to the dorm and we called the school nurse. And it was bad. She put cream all over him. She said, "Keep an eye on him." So I sat and talked to him. He was all right. He was in shock. But she said, I'll never forget, she said, "If he starts to swell up, call me right back." I said, "Okay." She left. Now I went in my room, my roommate, Daddy O. Daddy O at that time was big. I said, "Daddy O, we got to go in there and move Richie Ford out from under that sheet. Take your clothes off. You lay under the sheet. And I'll call a nurse and say, 'Come quick, this kid is swelling up the neck.' And I think he's going to blow him." Daddy O was this big, Richie was skinny. And Daddy O would do anything, but he said, "That's too cruel even for me. Right? We can't do that." So we went to Waukulla Springs. We swam in the ocean. We played a black semi-pro team of 35-year-old guys that treated our kids. It was just great. And we've got videos of Mark Ostrowski behind Chip Shot. Chip Shot was this big. He was so big he couldn't wear a baseball cap. He had to wear sort of a helmet. Well, Mark was catching and John Chitt was pitching, and this big guy came up. Man, this guy was, and he's a former professional ball player. John Chitt threw him a big, slow breaking ball. The big guy whiffed at it. So John threw another one, we whipped again. Now our Polish battery is figured out. If this guy is missing these slow curveballs, let's try it one more time. Well, I have it on video. This guy hit the ball over left field, over the fence, over a parking lot, and into a shopping mall behind the left field. And we have a video of him trotting around the bases. I said, "Jesus, John, 3 changes in a row." But that experience playing against older men, and we played about 100 games a summer. Baseball is a game where you have to learn the fundamentals and then go out and apply them. So most of the kids we had were solid fundamentally. They went out and played in college. And they're here. God bless them. I look back at these guys from '62. And one of the things I want to say to young guys today, I said, you should appreciate it. Dick Malasek said to me one day, "Coach, if I would have known it was the best time of my life, I would have paid more attention." And that's for a red-headed, left-handed Polish right fielder. That's pretty deep stuff. That was good. I like that. And what I was going to tell him, he said, "You young guys, you think this is, it's raining. Go back there and talk to one of those men from '62 or '4 or '5, and ask them what they'd give
to be 17 or 18 years old again and be able to play. They give a lot. But they don't have to do that because we have memories, right? We have memories. When I cannot talk to one of these guys on the phone for less than an hour. Because they always say, remember this story? Remember that? Remember when Garwood threw one off his mother's face or whatever it was? He missed to throw. I mean, great stuff there. Now, the stories. Russie mentioned some stories, but we've got some impressionable grandsons here. And I don't want to offend them, but that was true. Russ, the whole team went with the other team's players in Cedar Rapids. And they all left, and I had, what are Russ and I going to do? We didn't want to go to a motel, so I had a big mattress in the back of my car, so it was hot, we stripped on to the skivvies and slept back there. I mean, in those days, I never thought that Russ looked good to me, but not that good. The man doesn't have a hair on his body. Although then he had some on his head.
We never touched.
That's true. We were clinging to far sides of it. Like the last time I slept with Matty Evan, the poor kid, on one of the trips, he was clinging to the edge of that mattress. He was terrified. And I told him when he was there last night, I said, "You are the last player I ever slept with, Matty." Now look at the grin. He was in a room with Danny O and myself and this poor young kid. That's probably the most scary experience of his life. It was fun. But some of the stories, the cops didn't catch us, but we had fun. We still have fun when we talk about it. But if you play a sport because you want to be a professional or a great star, that's fine. A certain percentage of people get to do that, but most of us don't. Some of us get closer than others, but you should have fun. It should be fun. You don't work baseball, you go out and play it. Right? If you're a basketball player, God, if you don't like running up and down shooting baskets, then you should be playing chess or something else. Another thing, there's some ball players back there, and nobody ever became a baseball player by playing a computer video game. They should be banned, outlawed, destroyed, or right on the spot. You know, guys, when they drive by the baseball diamonds, they're all empty. Well, we're at a baseball. They're home pretending they're Joe DiMaggio or some of these. I tried it once and made me so nervous I had to go to the bathroom. I mean, it was terrible. Another thing, these guys, you never learned anything when you were talking. I love that line. If you're talking, you can't learn anything. So when the coach talks, shut up and listen. Listen. Because you're telling the coach how good you are. You aren't learning a thing. And now we should tell some of those stories. And I can go at random and point to almost anything. There's Joe Kish. My God, I could tell you Kish stories. I got on him one time for not hustling on a bunt, or he didn't get to the bunt, so the next one, he dove 30 feet from the mound and tried to spear it from... Clark Kent couldn't have reached that ball. And here's Joe Kish, who comes from a country that doesn't even have an Olympic sprint. He dives 30 feet sideways, and he's going to suck up that bunt. Later in the game, we were ahead of runners. We're up one, and he walks the guy, and I came and said, "Geez, Joe." He said, "Well, I would have bear down a little bit better if it was a close game." I said, "It's 2-1, Joe." Oh. So the next guy bunted, he flew through the air trying to get out of bases are loaded. We lost that game. He had a perfect game in the last inning. It was unbelievable. And Joe can tell you stories about driving his father's car at 4 in the morning and bringing it home with no rear end on it. That was good. Pete Osley, one of my big buddies, went on a Florida trip. We stopped to get gas. For some ungodly reason, he's wearing sandals. I slid the seat back. The rod under the seat went under his big toenail, took his toenail right off. So we have videos. You see a guy limping around looking very depressed. That was Pete. Never played an inning the whole time. We had hideous all-green uniforms one year. Pete used to weigh 100. His dark hair, he looks a little bit like, well, I won't say, Jiminy Cricket. When he put that green suit on, you saw Pete with that green baseball suit, you went, oh my God. Walt Disney sponsoring this team. But he looks a lot better now. But watching Daddy-O jump off a 30-meter diving board. Well, the man weighed about 375. He's 40 feet up in the air, and you look down, it's the clearest spring in the country. It's 270 feet deep, and when you got, I went up to take pictures. I didn't jump off. You look down, you could see the rocks clearly at the bottom. So it was like standing on a 30-story building. And the kids are all jumping off. Daddy O went up there. He jumped off, and I swear he was underwater for minutes. You know how deep a guy goes when he weighs almost 400 pounds? We're all saying, I have a video of it. I wasted half a roll of film waiting for the camera. And there was this huge gush of water, and he popped out in the middle, holding his rear end because he entered with his feet spread. The water level went down about a foot after that. It was beautiful. Yeah. The sheepdog story, which some of the older guys have requested, won me $101 on the radio, which Matt got when he went to the prom or something. It was actually on the radio on FM 101 or whatever, Bob Murphy in the morning. And I was always trying to figure ways of making money and mating dogs. I was always going to get rich having pedigreed puppies. One year I paid $100 to Chuck Britton to mate my schnauzer. And for my $100 I got one sperm and had one puppy. Which I was going to sell and get rich, but Bonnie said she'd commit suicide if I sold her puppies. So that cost me $100, so that didn't work out. But there was a woman at Glenbard South, Penny Perkins, I think her name was, had this huge male sheepdog. And I said, Mark, if you want to make these dogs, let's take them to the vet. Now wives think their husbands can do anything, but when you do it, you're always wrong. I said, you know, I cannot mate sheepdogs or anything else. She said, you can do it. So she brought this huge male dog over that was experienced. And I had this little female sheepdog that was half Swedish, which means she was not interested in sex at all. Not at all. So we put the dogs out on my screened-in porch, and the dog immediately marked his territory, which is a kind way of putting he ruined my floor. So Bonnie was there when she was about 18, and she had her girlfriend with her, standing in the doorway. Marge says to me, I put the dogs on the porch. Well, pedigree dogs mate like Protestants. Mongrels mate like other religious groups. I mean, my female didn't want any part of this. She sat down. When she stood up, this huge male pushed her all the way across the screen-in porch into the far wall, which didn't work. So Marge figured she would stand in front of the female and put the female's heads between her knees. Now, a hippo couldn't push Marge and the sheepdog. So the dog can't move forward, but it can still sit down. So Marge says, you've got to hold her up. Oh, you know, sheepdogs are very hairy. You can't even tell what part of their body you're touching. You know? So I knelt down next to the sheepdog, got my hand on her, and I'm trying to hold the sheepdog up. Now, I'm telling this story on the radio in Chicago, and some of them heard it. It won the most embarrassing story award of the year on FM 101. Well, I'm under there, I can see the big guy is missing. I mean, he doesn't know any more about this than I do. So Marge said, you know, you can do anything, you got to help him. I said, oh, help him. So she goes and gets my new leather driving gloves. Because I would wear gloves if I got too close to Rusty, much less this giant dog. So I put on my good leather gloves, and I'm laying on the floor on my back. Now I can see what's happening here. It's a horrible angle of view of this, but it's effective. So I was looking like it. And it's just, well, I have to. So I go like this. And to put it gently, because my grandsons are here, he found that extremely exciting. Extremely exciting. And everything ended right there, except if it was 1 inch to the right, I would be blind today. Right in the forehead. Well, Marge is down on one knee, Bonnie's laughing, and I'm laying on the floor, and may no other man ever have to do this, lay on the floor like this, hold his forehead. I crawled into the kitchen. It was all over, and of course they were laughing for a week. But you should have heard them laughing on FM 101. The engineers were funny, but it was true, and I won $101. And I almost lost an eye. And what would I have told the eye doctor? I've always wondered that. And it would have been bad. Bad. So that's the sheepdog story. And it's true. The elevator. When I was a kid in Chicago, 50 cents an hour was good wage. Now these kids over here wouldn't pick up a 50-cent piece unless they were broke. But 50 cents an hour was a living wage back in 1952 or 3. I got a job at the Edgewater Beach Apartments running an elevator. So I got in the elevator and the guy showed me the old kind, where the gate comes across. I mean, you start holding on, the gate comes. And they had a guy, and I had a fake tuxedo on, a little bib. And this way for up, this way for down. And he spent 5 minutes so you don't fall out of it. I was on the job a half hour, and the bell rings in the penthouse on the 23rd floor. So I went up to the top, and they were having some sort of a cocktail party up there. There must have been 30 people in the hall. They had all plastic glasses. They were all half in the bag. So I stepped out in the hall, and they all started getting in. Well, nobody ever told me anything about load limits or any of that stuff. I didn't know. They all kept getting in, and they were all friendly, and they've been drinking, so they're all snuggled in the bag. They all got on the elevator. I think there's 28 people or something like that. They were jammed in there. I could hardly get in. I had to stop together and pull the gate. Well, I knew I couldn't get any more, so I put it on down. And we started out 23 floors, and I noticed that we seemed to be gaining speed as we came down. Well, on the second floor, I put it on stop. Nothing happened. We went through the first floor in the lobby into the basement, and I found out later they used to have giant coil springs. We hit those springs and bounced to the third floor. Now, most of the males in the room knows what it feels like when an elevator goes down too fast. You go, well, you drop 23 floors and then bounce 3. Well, these happy drunks became very angry alcoholics. Yes. I mean, if they could have got their arms up enough, they would have punched me in the back and neck. Well, we bounced about 6 or 8 times. It was gradually settling. And I went by the lobby, and the doors were open, and the manager was standing there with a look on his face like... So we said, next time you come by, holler, and have them dive out. So they had 2 or 3 guys, and people were diving into the lobby. And when I got out of that elevator, the guy said, come here a minute, kid. Go away, because I'm going to kill you if I see you in that car. For 50 cents. I'm sure the people on that elevator remember that story real well.
Please, the power brakes. Power brakes.
Oh.
I think they're ready for the power brakes.
Somebody remember Don Karamitsis, who's out of West, a little Greek guy. We were roommates out of Northern Illinois, and my mother-in-law, who was always trying to find ways for me to earn some money, put out a brochure that we would do anything for 50 cents an hour. So we went around doing whatever people wanted us to do. We trimmed bushes, ruined them, put away storm windows. We trimmed bushes. We went into this fancy house, and they had these neat fitzers or whatever. They were about 18 feet high, and they had a million of them all the way around this big yard. And this fancy woman came out and said, I'd like you to trim these bushes. Well, we were from the city. We'd never seen a bush. I mean, I said, how much, lady? She said, well, trim them nice and short. So she left. She went shopping. Karamitsis and I got the chainsaws out. And we trimmed them down this high from the ground, which meant there was no green left on them. And the backyard was a humongous pile of dead trees. We made 50 cents each for destroying her backyard. Well, anyhow, the one they wanted to hear, there was an ad in the paper that said, we need help, we need a driver. So we went over this big old Victorian, and it had ramps going up to it. And a little blue-haired old lady let us in. And she said, good, my husband is ill, and we'd like to take him for a ride every afternoon on a nice day. Can you drive a Packard? She said. I can drive anything. I'm 18 or 19. She said, well, I want to warn you that my husband has been very ill. He's had severe diabetes and both his legs were amputated at the hip. Oh. And his left arm was gone, and his right hand, he had 2 fingers, which he used to hold a big cigar. And she said, he's a very profane man. He only says 2 words, and he says them when he's happy, he says them when he's mad. Because the boys are, gosh darn, were his 2 words. Those are the only 2 words he could say. So she said, I'm glad one of you guys is big, and the other guy, Kermit, is little, because big guy can lift him in the car, the little guy can hold him on the seat. Okay. We took his wheelchair down the ramp, we got him next to this big old Packard, and we lifted him, and he's, gosh, he's moaning and groaning. We got him in, propped him up on 2 pillows. Kermit's slid in next to him. I got behind the wheel of this big old Packard. And we're driving down the street, and this guy, he's going, gosh darn, he's looking at these leaves that was in the fall, beautiful. Gosh darn, he's smoking. Everything was fine until we came to a stop sign. And I whapped a power brake on that Packard. And this guy flew off of that seat. Like he was shot out of a cannon, hit his head on the dashboard, and went straight down into the rubber band in the floor, so his rear end is sticking up there. His rear end's up in the air, and you can hear him, gosh darn, gosh darn. So I turned to Kermit and said, you idiot, you were supposed to be holding him on the seat. He said, there's nothing to hold on to, there's no arm on that side. So, what are we going to do? I said, well, pull him up. He said, why, by what? There's nothing to pull him up. So, we both got out on the left side of the car and ran around to his side. We opened the door and he fell right out on the floor. Oh my God, the blue-haired old lady was red in the face, screaming and crying. So, we picked him up, and I've never heard gosh darn say, I mean, this guy's face was rather severe. I killed him. She was mad. Can you believe that? She was mad. We paid 50 cents. We got 50 cents each for killing off that old guy. But then years later, we were at a party, and we met his regular driver. And he said, were you the guys that flew him off the sea? Well, I didn't know power brakes. It was fun. Well, I know what other Rusty was talking about. Other stories that you'd like to hear. Baseball stories. We talked about the world's longest triple. We should talk about some of the top best things. In 1974, we played for the state championship. We went to Lewis College, I think it was, in our usual school bus. Niles, east or west, drove up in an air-conditioned Greyhound bus. And they were beating us. They should have been beating us more. They were beating us 1-2 to 1 to 1 in the last inning. We got a couple men on. One man on. Steve Turk was on third. I talked to Jay Johnson. I think Jay's here. Jay, you got 1 to hit. We're going to squeeze this run and tie it up bottom of the last inning. Jay hit the first pitch about 400 feet. They threw the relay away, and he scored the winning run with me a step behind him. And we won our state summer championship. And Jay will never get a better hit than that. I mean, I was 2 steps behind him, believe it or not. If he would have stopped, I would have killed him. My mother-in-law got so excited, rest her old soul, she wet her pants. And that, for the Swedish woman, that's the ultimate compliment. It's hard to get him to that point, I'll tell you. So everywhere we went, we wanted to have fun. People say, we have one teacher said, Burns, everybody thinks you're a fool because you spend so much time with baseball. I said, no. I'm spending all that time with baseball because that's where I want to be. And I would still be there if it wasn't for that 2-letter word, driver ed. But we had fun. And I hope these kids that are playing now, remember, this could be the best time of your life, and you're making friends that you will know forever. And the guy comes in on a 12-hour bus ride. People come from Medford, Oregon, California, Arizona, Texas. It's a tribute, not only to me, at least I consider it that way, although Bill Patterson, a warm, sarcastic fellow, he said, I'm not coming to see you, I want to see Winger and the other guys. No, that's good. I'm glad you're bald. And it's seeing these guys, the first of all, they've all gotten so old, it makes me feel younger, which is good. Some of them are bald, but they're still the best team. And we've had teams with as much talent, although not many, unfortunately. But these guys, I have a picture at home with 2 outs in the last inning of our first championship win. And the guys were all lined up along the dugout, ready to fire out there. And some of the people here were not regulars. They were just good teammates. They pulled for the other guys. There was no backstabbing and geez, this and that, you know, I'm getting robbed, I'm better than the other guy. Everybody on the team should think he should be playing regular. I always thought I was the best player on my teams. Of course, I probably was, but I can't imagine a guy sitting on a bench thinking, I'm a sub, this is where I belong, I'm not good enough. If that's the case, play tennis. Get skinny and ugly and go out for track. But these baseball players should feel like they belong out there, and they do. I have one boy over here, I won't tell which one it is, poor bald guy. He was a sub on most of the teams he played on. He looked like a spider. He was so skinny and long, skinny. He wasn't very big. He was small and thin. He never played until he was a senior. When he was a senior, he made all conference and all there. He went to college and played with Ricky Resch and the guys at Northwest Missouri, Northeast Missouri, whichever it was, and did real well there. He just hung in there. If you want to play bad enough, hang in there and play as long as you can, guys. Because I told my boys, play as long as you can, because when you get through playing, you're going to wish you could have played longer. True? True. Todd's 41, Jeff's 39, they're still playing. I think one of the Broman boys is playing in that over 40. Pretty soon they'll be in the over 50 league. But baseball is really a way of life to a lot of people. It's just a game, but it's a game that anybody can play, no matter how big they are, how small, how slow. We've proven that. Is Greg still here?
Okay, tell the story about the race.
Well, yeah, all right, I'll tell you now. I made the mistake of challenging an Ivy Leaguer to a foot race. I was about 50, and he was in the prime of his life at 18, and we were at a party at Elliott's, and I said, you are so slow, Matthews, I could beat you right now. So they set up this big challenge race out in the street in front of Elliott's. I got my wingtips on, my good pants. Matthews goes home and gets his $120 running shoes. His mother massages his thighs. We get out in front of the house, and he beats me by 1 step, and 20 years later, he's still bragging about it. And it was close. It was a close race. But he did beat me, I admit that. He was not the slowest guy in the team, I was. Until you were. Anyhow, I appreciate you all being here. This is a nice room. This is a nice place. And the guys in the committee did such a great job. They've been planning this for months, and spent a lot of time and a lot of money and effort. And just because they were being nice to an old man. So anytime you get a chance to be nice to an old man or an old lady. Of course, it's hard to be nice to an old lady because you're already old yourself. Hey, and the older guys know what I'm talking about. I appreciate it, and I will appreciate it the rest of my life. I think it was wonderful. The whole Burns family appreciates it. And sometimes you sit up north and you start feeling sorry. And I have been known to always see the dark side of things. And Matthew's done it all the time. I know that's hard to believe. When I was in high school, I got a lump on my left arm because in the 50s, the greeting with a smash in the arm, I was convinced it was arm cancer. And said goodbye to all the guys on the team. And I went to the doctor and was sort of semi-disappointed that it was just a fatty cyst. I've had every disease known to man and never really had any of them. I sit around waiting, you know. And I've told several guys, if you ever hear me complaining again about anything, you remind me of this weekend and this night. And what a great thing it is you did for me, and I will never forget it. And if you get a chance to come visit me up in the Northwoods, do that. First of all, you'll feel thinner up there because Wisconsin people are the fattest in the country. We have a standard joke at the golf course. If you see a woman under 220, she's a tourist. So if you feel a little out of it walking down Main Street, well, move north. Going down Main Street in Land Lakes, everybody's on their way over to they have a fish fry or some cheese curds, some other health food. Come and visit us because I almost said we. I love to have guys come up. We have a big hot tub in the boats, and I miss being with my kind of people. There's a lot of nice people up there. Some of them came down here today, which was great. But my kind of people, baseball players, ex-baseball players, people who love baseball, and I can actually talk to them. You know, the guys say, well, they're all arrogant millionaires. Yeah, we're talking big league. We're talking about high school players. I was very impressed with those Glenbard teams today. I'm sure you older guys were. They sat there and they acted the way young guys should act. Don't screwing around. So you get, when you're coaching and you get to be with the best people. I've always thought that. That's why it really hurt my feelings when somebody on the team proved they weren't one of the best people. And you had to say goodbye to them, and I'm the bad guy. That's all right. You have to learn. These guys are of high character. I trust them anywhere with anything I have to do, and always did. On the trips and that, I never sat around worrying about them because I knew I could count on them. Once you get, that may be naive, sometimes you get disappointed, but I wasn't disappointed very often. I'll tell you right now, I'm not disappointed in any of you people. I think it's just great being here. And I hope you stay around because we should talk. You know, there's a lot of good stories that you haven't heard. But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention some of the guys that are gone. Mike Pickering died this year. Mike was probably the best all-around athlete in the history of the school. He was all-conference in three sports, football, basketball, baseball. He played wide receiver in Illinois. He was just a great athlete. Bob Elliott's gone, Bill Matthews is gone, Daddy-O is gone, Ron Frederick, and go on. There's just sad cases. I didn't want to mention that because this should not be a sad occasion, but we miss those people. But when we talk about them, we remember them, they're still part of our life. And you're all part of my life, and I appreciate it because there's nothing else I can think of that would make me feel like I feel right now.
Look at that. This will be nice when they get dugouts here next year.